I think it's time to watch the Alex Jones Tucker Carlson interview. Isn't this gonna be fun, guys? Look at these intellectual powerhouses we're about to stare down. Let's see what they gotta say.
We're here with the world's most dangerous man, the most censored man in the English language. But honestly, when you get him in front of an outhouse in the woods, he doesn't seem so dangerous.
Well, yeah, because there's no children there's no school shooting victims in the immediate area.
It's a fancy outhouse.
We have a ruling class.
Because there's a bunch of elderly people who could talk about in a looming natural disaster. It'd be much more of a threat.
In the United States, defined by its hatreds, not its loves, not its hopes, but by its hatreds. They hate all kinds of people, large groups of people, the deplorables, the bitter clingers.
I do want to throw out there that the last person I would ever want to lecture me on a politics based in hate would be Tucker Carlson.
America's entire blue-collar population, the unfashionable people.
I see very, from what I saw from his program, both on TV and on his show online, there's very little, I would say, constructive dialogue about finding compromise or policy recommendations. And hell, here's a policy wonk who's going to talk to us about Social Security reform. It's no, here is a freak that I've pulled off the street who said that he smoked crack and had gay sex with Barack Obama. So no, I'm not going to listen to Tucker Carlson when it comes to lecturing people on having too much hateful rhetoric in their political commentary.
They're hated by the people who run our country. But no one is hated more by them than a man called Alex Jones. Alex Jones is the single most censored man in all American history. He was the first media figure in our history to be completely erased in one day, deplatformed. Alex Jones was deplatformed before it was a common term. And
it's not true. I mean, other people have been deplatformed way before Alex Jones. I don't even know if it's true that he got deplatformed on multiple platforms on the same day. He was the first person that happened to him. But there's like examples of it happening to the Dixie Chicks. I know Nick Fuentes was also somebody who went through this process as well. Yeah, not only being deplatformed, but also being debanked, having his banking services removed from him. I don't think Alex Jones is particularly unique in the idea of being deplatformed for his political beliefs. In fact, I would say that there have been previous deplatformings that are much more objectionable and deserve much more coverage than this deplatforming. I think the Dixie Chicks coming out against the invasion of Iraq being something that lost them radio appearances, lost them playtime on the radio stations, is much more condemnable considering how that war went than not having someone on your platform because they said that those kids that got shot at that shooting were actually faking it, and then causing a harassment campaign of their parents that has lasted over a decade.
Not just deplatformed, sued, attacked. They attempted to criminally charge him. What did Alex Jones do wrong? Alex Jones didn't rape anybody. He didn't loot Macy's.
I love that standard. I'm sorry. I hope we do this with politicians and all major figures going forward. When anyone does anything wrong, we just need to downplay it by comparing it to the worst possible crimes and atrocities imaginable. So what did this what did this figure Jeffrey Epstein actually do? Did he Holocaust all the Jews? Did he organize 9/11? No. At the end, like, you can try to make any number of crimes and atrocious actions seem bad by just getting something 10 times worse and putting it in comparison. Like, yeah, I Alex Jones has never raped anyone, but I don't know if that's the standard we should measure everything by.
He didn't burn a police station. He didn't invent a fake cryptocurrency and loot pension funds. He didn't start a pointless war that made this country poorer and more disorganized. He didn't open the southern
He didn't. I don't even know what it's in reference. I assume that's in reference to Ukraine.
border. No, Alex Jones had opinions that deeply rattled the people who run America. In fact,
it's not a question of just like opinion, where Alex Jones said, I think Hillary Clinton is a gay lesbian or something, and then he got taken off the networks, even though that was pretty shit opinion. But it was the spreading of disinformation about mass casualty events that that went on that caused displeasure for their family. I mean, I don't even know what to call it, displeasure, that caused pain for their families for years and years afterwards. That's not the same as like just sharing an opinion. If I was to come out and say like this major terrorist attack that killed all these people was actually done by this fake made up group that I just crafted, that's something that I do believe deserves repercussion. And he didn't do that. He went as far as to say that the parents were engaged in some malicious cover-up of a crime, and that their kids were used as a tool, and they tried to fool the nation in order to steal everyone's guns, that their children were not killed. They were part of a plot to steal everybody's firearms. And this isn't the only, and I'm harping on this because there's so much information about it, in large part because Alex Jones's lawyer leaked much of the information about this to the opposition during the trial. Oopsie daisy. But you could go into any other number of events that Alex Jones has covered, like mass tragedies, and he engaged in very repulsive behavior. For example, saying that, you know, oh, this mass natural disaster that's coming is not going to nearly be as bad as they're talking about on the press. You just don't need to leave your homes in Florida, before he then leaves. While everybody else, his fans, well, presumably would be told to stay because nothing's going wrong, everything's fine. And his career is full of stuff like that. That's not even talking about incorrect predictions, him predicting wars that don't happen, or predicting wars horribly wrong, or just all of his doomsday estimations of the FEMA camps are coming on this day or in this month or this year that just didn't happen.
A lot of us.
That's the thing that gets me about Alex Jones. And I'm sorry I'm keep pausing it. I'll let it play for a bit after this. That's the thing that gets me about Alex Jones. Is Alex Jones is put on the air because he's funny and he's loud and he say things that make you go, it just sounds suspect. But if you go through the record of his predictions, if you go from the record of his behavior, he is not a particularly accurate predictor of the histories that are to come, unless he keeps it so vague that it's impossible to make to know what he's even talking about. For example, a war will happen in the next 5 years instead of a war between China and Japan will happen in this year. When he makes specific predictions, he gets it wildly wrong. He's extremely hyperbolic, lies constantly. And when he does lie, sometimes he fucks up to such a massive level that he can cause genuine pain to other people, like what happened in Sandy Hook. And so when it comes to just deplatforming Alex Jones, while I do think, of course, he has a right to the First Amendment, a big reason why a lot of platforms have him on is also because he's just not that valuable of a commentator. He's funny, he's entertaining, and he can bring in viewership, but I don't think he's valuable outside of an entertainment value.
And I'll just confess that I first heard of Alex Jones when he questioned the official story behind 9/11. And I, speaking for myself, was deeply offended by this. I didn't take any time to find out what he was saying, but I was bothered by the idea that this defining event in American history, which changed the life of everyone who lived here then, might not actually have unfolded as we were told it did. And that possibility was too destabilizing. And I remember feeling resentment toward Alex Jones for saying that. But several years later, I wound up in Austin, Texas, and through a chain of circumstances, wound up meeting Alex Jones. And I learned what everyone who has met him now knows, which is Alex Jones is not a crazy person. Alex Jones has said pretty far out things on TV from time to time. Not that far out. He hasn't said men can become women or Ukraine is a democracy.
Wow, ha ha. Ha ha, so sassy, he got him.
But
okay, just to be clear, by the standards that Tucker is using, the United Kingdom is also not a democracy due to their wartime protocols during warfare. Just want to throw that out there.
Within the bounds of, say, cable news, pretty far out. But
well, like the Sandy Hook shooting was fake? That's not that far out?
Fundamentally,
okay.
Alex Jones is right about a lot of things.
Imagine if this was your first interaction with who Alex Jones was. This was your first interaction. You didn't know anything about him. You didn't know if his past commentary was accurate or if it was valuable or what all that stink about Sandy Hook was. And this was your first introduction to him. He's not that crazy. He doesn't say boys or girls. He doesn't support the Ukraine.
And in fact, that's why they don't like him. Alex Jones has an uncanny, really an amazing ability to predict events before they happen. He has called it, and he's done it on tape again and again, to the point where it's a meme on the internet. Alex Jones, prophet, not conspiracy nut, prophet. But when you dig into Alex Jones's predictions, they are so spot on that it's remarkable. How does he do this? We're guessing there's a kind of spiritual sensitivity to Alex Jones. Maybe that's his secret. He was displaying this years before the average person in this country even thought about matters like that. Now it's pretty obvious to most people that the current war going on in this country is taking place in ways you can't see it most of the time. But 10 years ago...
What war? What war is going on in the country?
People are not thinking that way. Alex Jones was.
Culture war, maybe he means? Political war? Deep war against the deep state? Keep it vague. Cast a wide net.
And so we thought it'd be interesting to sit down and talk to Alex Jones.
The info war.
He joins us now in our studio. Alex Jones, thank you.
Wow, Tucker, it's great to be here. Amazing studios, amazing, I mean it, amazing people. And this is really going to be, I think, a historic interview. So
historic.
Well, I'm really grateful to be able to do it. And it's one of the great blessings of my life and of my job is that I've been able to meet people that I've had preconceptions about and sometimes find those preconceptions bolstered and in other cases demolished. And you're definitely in the second category. So I want, for people who've made it this far, you know, the people who are in the country have really succeeded in making you disreputable. And the whole point, of course, is people won't listen to you. So we thought it'd be interesting to start with a series of
it's almost like, to him, it has to be, it's a plot that they made him look like a fucking maniac. And it's not that Alex Jones just looks like a maniac because, number one, he acts like a maniac and he puts on a character, which he has said in a court when debating over the custody of his child, he said that he puts on a character. And so he's purposefully trying to look like a maniac, yelling, going crazy, going rah, 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 on his show, right? While also saying things that are demonstrably false about mass tragedy events in a really disgusting way. That doesn't need a lot of tweaking to make look gross and to discredit. It is just discrediting behavior. Now, that isn't to say that you can't act crazy and still be right about things. But when you act crazy and you're wrong about things, I mean, then you're just like that guy on the street corner with a sign saying the end is near and the Jesuits caused it.
8 predictions that you made, some of which are so precise and so prescient that it makes the hair on my arms stand up. And I'm being sincere, and our viewers are about to see what I'm talking about. Here is a list of things that you called ahead of time.
By the middle of September, that the new policy is being written, you will all have to wear masks again, and so will airport employees.
It's happening. Mask mandates are officially back.
We know the Joint Chiefs.
But can I just throw this out there? I just got from like the airport. I just flew back into the United States. I used Lufthansa to fly, and I used some Irish airliners, but I was all across the airport. I maybe saw 4 people with masks. I saw maybe 4 people during all of the flights and while walking about the store, the inside. The only people I knew for sure had masks were a lot of the staff. The staff had masks. So maybe there's certain airliners that have brought that requirement back, but I mean, I saw a bunch of people not wearing masks, and I came from Germany, man. I was coming from Germany. I was using a German airliner. I was using Irish airliner. These are globalist countries, not 101, Ireland and Germany. But yeah, but no, I didn't see it.
The staff wanted to blow up airliners, Baltimore Sun, or if you let some terrorist group do it, like the World Trade Center, we know who to blame. And if there was an outside threat like a bin Laden, who was a known CIA asset in the 80s.
This group and its leader, a person named Osama bin Laden.
He's the boogeyman they need.
We're looking at a giant war in February right now. I predict the Russians are going to roll in. They're already there. They're going to roll in.
with attacks across
airliners, Baltimore Sun, or if you let some terrorist group do it, like the World Trade Center.
For those of you who might be confused as to why, we can look up the specific quotes to see if this is edited well, because I wouldn't put it past Tucker to not edit, to deceptively edit or try to manipulate stuff like this. But I do want to throw out there that Osama bin Laden was a known factor, and Clinton had tried to be killing him during his term and failed. So he was a known terrorist. It was known that he wanted to target the United States and that he was working with terror groups in order to try to kill American soldiers, target American boats, etc. So it wasn't like he just took this completely unknown factor and was like, I know the agent, his name is Osama bin Laden. Because if Alex Jones had access to the information, he would have said it, right? He wouldn't have just like floated around scenarios and started throwing out random terrorists in random locations. He would have said World Trade Center, Osama bin Laden, not giving examples and saying it could be this, it could be that. And one of the ones he gave was the World Trade Center, which was a hypothesized target for terror attacks, and it was something that had been targeted by previous bombings before. So I don't think it's that wild to throw that together. It is something that I think you can kind of smile about, but I don't think it shows that he had some deep underground knowledge or anything. I think he probably named a bunch of locations, named a bunch of people who could have done certain terror attacks, and these were a few of the hypothetical scenarios, and it ended up happening.
We know who to blame. And if there was an outside threat like a bin Laden who was...
Like if I went on TV and I was like, I heard that Hamas might do a terror attack in Jerusalem. And then I named like a famous site in Jerusalem. I said they might do that in the next few years. Like that, like during a period of tension in the region. Like, I mean, just like throwing that out there, I mean, there's a decent chance of a good batting average. I mean, not a decent chance, but you have not a decent chance of a good batting average, but a decent chance of getting it right. And that's the thing with Alex Jones. And this is the problem with a lot of conspiracy theorists. And this is how the legend around Alex Jones was born, around him predicting things right, is if you just predict things all the time and get a few of them right, but you're firing so crazy, like so much that you have enough of those clips to string together, it looks like you have a really good batting average at predicting things. When if you look at all the things that Alex Jones predicts, that's not the case. Yeah, the sharpshooter fallacy, exactly.
Was a known CIA asset in the 80s.
This group and its leader, a person named Osama bin Laden.
He's the boogeyman they need.
We're looking at a giant war in February right now. I predict the Russians are going to roll in. They're already there. They're going to roll in.
By the way, I want to throw something out here. This is two clips clipped together because I've seen these clips before. This is really deceptive. See how quick the clip here is? I'm sorry to go through all of this, but sadly I know these clips.
Drew it, like the World Trade Center.
So I have to give the context.
We know who to blame. And if there was an outside threat like a bin Laden who was a group drew it.
Osama bin Laden.
He's the boogeyman they need.
We're looking at a giant war in February right now.
So he cuts that and then clips to another one. So the reason that clip is so short is because the war that Alex was predicting was a war with China in February of 2022. It was a war with China over Taiwan, which did not happen. But because he said a war in February of 2022, they just clipped that part out, put that there, and it was like, whoa, but I mean, there was a war. Yeah, but the war he predicted was a different war. If I said, I think there's going to be a war between fucking Albania and Serbia in 2027, and instead it was between Mozambique and one of its neighbors, obviously that's not a correct prediction.
I predict the Russians are going to roll in. They're already there. They're going to roll in.
He did predict the Russians are going to roll in, but he didn't predict a month. That's deceptive.
with attacks across Ukraine, which is the size of Texas.
It really was the Iraqis. That's just because they're getting ready to invade Iraq. And what a beautiful setup.
Those 9/11 clips are crazy. I mean,
the Iraq invasion thing, he was not the only one to make that type of prediction. But again, it's weighted against a bunch of predictions that he's gotten wrong many occasions. But obviously, those are things not to brag about. Like all the times he talked about the FEMA camps being set up.
Bothered by the precision of them. I'm not accusing you of being behind 9/11. But how could you, in July of 2001, call that? You said they're going to have airliners fly into the World Trade Center, and they're going to blame a guy called Osama bin Laden. No, leaving aside what actually happened, how could you have known that?
Well, in the longer clips, because it's a multi-hour show from July 25th, 2001, I specifically walked through all the reasons, and I knew that they were hyping up that we were about to be hit by Osama bin Laden. I knew that the World Trade Center.
Let me read you some predictions that Alex Jones has made. Let me read you some failed predictions that him and his guests have made. 1 second. Let me pull it all up. Here we go. February 4th, 2009. No doubt in my mind they are going to stage an inaugural bombing in the next 6 to 7 months, just like 9/11. March 24th, 2010. In 15 years, half of the U.S. population will die, and it will be repopulated with Latin Americans. February 13th, 2009. Staged biological attacks will kill 50% of the U.S. population in 5 to 15 years. October 20th, 2020. The next 3 years, 8 million people could be dying per month by next year as a chain reaction unfolds. They're talking about close to 300 million people dying. What else we got here? There's so many here. One second. There's such a big list. February 4th, 2009. Obama is going to stage something like a war, financial collapse in the next 4 months. Let's see. What else? There's so many different ones here. I'm just trying to pick the ones that I find most interesting. June 15th, 2008. The U.S. dollar will be worth 10% of what it was in 2 years. Obviously, it didn't happen. June 22nd, 2009. I wouldn't be surprised if they stage a terror attack in the next 60 to 90 days. See, you see that type of thing? You see what he's doing there? Oh, man. You know, I feel a terrorism coming on. Oh, where is it, Mr. Jones? Can you feel the rumblings in the earth? He pulls out one of those, one of those sticks they use to try to find the water. One of those search instance. Okay, I looked. It's gonna be 60 to 365 days. A terror attack will happen somewhere on a continent. Wow. Whoa. Wow, that's a great prediction. And then if a terror attack doesn't happen, he'll just make the prediction again afterwards for the next 30 days to 90 days. And then eventually when he hits it, he'll just play that clip on repeat on his show to show how much of a big-based psychic and good predictor he is. But this is how Alex Jones functions. He's not just predicting every single event. And when you need to listen to Alex Jones' commentary because he's predicting all these things all the time, is that he's randomly firing at the wall, and every once in a while he hits a shot on target, not because he has good aim, but if you eventually shoot the wall enough times, you're going to hit the target. I'll keep looking through this as Alex Jones keep talking, and I'll keep chiming in with different predictions that he's made that are interesting.
Had been attacked the first time, and that the Fed's been involved helping cook the bomb and allowing it to go forward. And I just saw a lot of the
all pension funds will be gone by 2010
programming that was happening in the media, because they were on the news saying, life's about to change in America. And I was reading what the Rand Corporation was saying and what the Pentagon was putting out.
Oh, here's another example. For example, when he got that thing wrong about currency devaluation, what did he say in May 23rd, 2010? In the next 2 years, they're going to devalue currency by at least 50%. Okay, well, so see if he gets it wrong in 2008, that it's going to be 10% of its worth, then just try again in 2010, 2 years later, do a similar prediction that also is wildly wrong. See, he just keeps swinging until he hits something.
And I read the PNAC document from a year before, Rebuilding America's Defenses, that Dick Cheney had helped write. And it said we need a Pearl Harbor event on the American homeland to be able to bring in this police state and this control and then expand the American empire worldwide. So hundreds of pieces of data went into that prediction.
But terrorists are going to hit the World Trade Center in July of 2001. I lived in the United States then. That was the last thing on my mind. And I lived in Washington. I know the guys who wrote the PNAC document because I shared.
See, this is the thing. If it was a freak accident, or as in he's just shooting at the wall until he gets something right? If it was, then he's not going to have a good explanation as to how he knew. If it wasn't, then he's going to be able to say, this government official told me this was going to happen on this day. This is how he's going to have a good basis here. But if he's just blindly swinging, then he's going to, you know, kind of keep it mysterious and like, yeah, I was just looking at the signs, and a lot of the signs were worrying, keeping it as vague as possible.
An office with them, so I was more informed than the average person. And that was the last thing that crossed my mind in the summer of 2001. Like everyone else, I thought it was a Cessna. But how convinced were you that this was going to happen?
I was completely convinced. In fact, in the full clip that's online, you can find it on Twitter, other places, it has been removed. I explained to people that they need to call the White House and tell the White House, we know if you allow these attacks that you're basically allowing it to happen. And it was similar to all the data we had when
Well, you said that on your show?
On my show. And I gave the number out so people could actually call the White House. And then going back to October of last year, when the Russians went into Ukraine, I specifically...
Here's a good one. Roads will turn into robot roads in the next 5 to 10 years. September 9th, 2015. Hey, we still got 2 years on that, on robot roads.
Said I think they'll go in by the end of February, and there was a lot of data that went into that, and then they specifically did go in on February.
Again, the February date he's talking about, he was talking about a war between China and America over Taiwan. He did not predict February for a Russian invasion of Ukraine.
24th, and so I was able to make that prediction as well, but there was a lot of data and information that went into it.
Sure, I'm just, for the record, I miscalled that completely. I didn't think they were going to do it. You were right, I was wrong, not for the first time. But the 9/11 thing, I remember that really well. Nobody was thinking like that. So you called it in public on tape. Did the 9/11 Commission, so if I'm the FBI and I'm investigating 9/11, you're like the first guy I would call because you're the only person who said that out loud. Did they call you?
No, they didn't. But my most accurate prediction, going back over a decade, was when I read the Rockefeller Foundation Operation Lockstep, and they described using a virus to bring in world government, to bring in a world medical ID that they would then build the social credit score off of, and that they would make people wear masks for fear, and that they would shut down sporting events and things like that, and basically phase in this new tyranny. So I was also able
to... Let me, I don't want to talk about the vaccines too much because I don't want to get demonetized here, okay? But let me read this. This is from a guest he had. This is from 2021, August 1st, Mike Adams. This somebody put on his network to talk to his viewers about vaccines. We're going to see millions of dead in the next 12 to 36 months among the needle people. You get the idea. And that this will cause an uprising, that the U.S. government will then enforce martial law to take away guns and control people. Otherwise, the globalist system would implode and be tried under Nuremberg 2.0. And all of that is coming up in the next couple of months. Again, this is in 2021. It has begun. He also stated that there'll be no USA by 2025 and no elections in 2022. Just a note, that was a year ago. And here's another one. Here's a statement from Jones on February 4th, 2009. Wait, I already read that one. 1 second. There's so many here. Here's February 28th, 2010. Here's another great Alex Jones statement. Within 16 months, at least 15 European nations will collapse and a new total economic collapse will begin. Wow. I think I missed that one.
Specifically, make that prediction over and over and over again because I was going off their own battle plans.
Are you the only person in media who actually reads these reports?
I don't think a lot of people do read them, but I do.
He's got the secret truth.
I mean, I'm currently reading MIT reports from their top councils, Pentagon reports. They have a working group called the...
Here's one. This is from 2017, December 7th. How about 5 years from now? The European Union, as we know, will be gone by 2022, before the clock strikes December 31st, 2022. Mark my words. The European Union will be completely dissolved. I'll be surprised if it lasts to 2020. You heard it here again, ladies and gentlemen. Deep analysis, deep historical research, deep focus, deep commitment. Alex Jones.
Mad scientist group at the Pentagon that works with MIT. And if you go watch their hour-long, 2-hour-long, 3-hour-long meetings they have on YouTube with all the tops, I mean, we're talking hundreds of top scientists, they admit that they're building a post-human world, that soon everyone's going to be mind-controlled, that they're going to put smart dust in our food that they can electromagnetically control, and they just lay it all out right there. And I've learned what these people said in the 50s they would do were done by the 70s. What they said their plan was in the 70s for the 90s, they got done. And then when they had their Agenda 21 in Rio de Janeiro in 1992, the big UN summit, they described everything they would do up until the year 2000. And they got.
Hey, here's a question: who's planning the post-human world? What entity is it? The humans that are planning the post-human world? I'm just interested.
That done. And now they've got Agenda 2030, and we're going to ban your gas stoves. We're going to ban beef. We're going to ban single-family dwellings. We're going to ban private ownership of cars. We're going to do all this, and now you see them rolling it all out. So I'm not really making predictions in these high-level World Economic Forum and other large think tank groups. They are laying out the future, and they're high priests of the World Economic Forum. That's a consortium of all these groups.
Here's a good one. Here's a good prediction. I'm sorry. I'm just having fun reading these as he rambles. Vaginal births will be prohibited in order to reduce the IQ and brain volume of the baby and to make births cheaper for hospitals. That was 3 years ago. So, give it another 2 years. Maybe it'll happen.
Yuval Noah Harari, you go read his quotes. The future's not human. The human era is over. The public is useless. I mean, this is a very anti-human system. So that's...
Oh, here's an anti-human attack planned by the anti-human system. March 3rd, 2010. I have no doubt that they are going to stage bug attacks. If I had to guess it, I'd say April 15th or 19th. Of course, 15th or 19th. 17th, terrible day for a bug attack. 15th and 19th, perfect days for a bug attack. The analysis really lines up for April 15th or 19th.
That's how I'm able to make predictions, because they've given us a roadmap. They tell us where they want to take us. And so when the public wakes up, we push back on some of it, but they always come back. And so I'm just following the trajectory of where they say they want to take us. And there were a lot of white papers, not just the PNAC document from 2000, a year before 9/11, where they describe we really need big terror attacks. We really need Pearl Harbor events to get Americans to give up their rights. I mean, take what just happened in Israel. Totally tragic. My heart goes out to all that been killed or lost loved ones or been injured. But there's no way that one of the best intelligence agencies in the world.
I'm just throwing out there that this is the type of logic that he used in order to jump to the conclusions that led to the Sandy Hook denial. That he knew, or in his version of events, that the government was trying to have an event so they could take your guns away. And so Sandy Hook, horribly tragic. Why would someone target kids? I know, in order to take our guns away. That he jumped to a bunch of conclusions, used horribly faulty evidence, did not do his due diligence as a quote unquote reporter, and then fucked over those families. So I just want to throw that out there because he's dabbling in the same territory and continuing to dabble in the same territory that got him into all that trouble in the first place.
Didn't know that was coming. The massive buildup, the 5,000 missiles, the paragliding attacks, all of that. And so there was clearly a stand down there. And now the West will take more of the people's rights. Israel will be able to crack down and take more of their people's rights, which is a big debate over there. Hamas is being funded by Hezbollah, which is Iran. We just had Biden a month ago give $6 billion to Iran. And now the mullahs are bragging that they were behind the attack, Hezbollah funding Hamas. So
I just want to throw out there that we didn't give $6 billion to Iran of American dollars. There was $6 billion that was frozen by the United States from the Iranians. And in exchange for prisoners, we released that money. That was theirs.
Really, those aren't...
Just wanted to clarify that.
Aren't even predictions. It's clear that Hezbollah and Hamas have tens of thousands of men and women as sleeper cells that are, quote, other than Mexican, that the Border Patrol list every month, tens of thousands coming across the Texas and Arizona and California sectors. And it's an easy equation to predict that there's a wide probability that Hezbollah and Hamas at some point are going to attack sports stadiums, they're going to attack colleges, they're going to attack synagogues, they're going to shoot up mass gatherings if they're given the order by Iran, if we go to war with Iran. And then when this happens, our government won't get in trouble for dissolving the border and letting these people come in.
See, like, look how little is based here in reality. There's been no instances of Hamas operatives being caught on the border trying to enter the United States through Mexico. There's no evidence of this. There's never been any footage that's come out where it was, oh, is that a Hamas operative? No pictures, no documentation, no anything, nothing, never, nobody caught. There's no evidence of it. But because he knows that Hamas is an enemy of the United States, now he just does his work with Mr. Speculation, his best friend, his number one tool, and he's just like, well, we know Hamas isn't like America, and we know that our border's wide open, so why wouldn't Hamas go through America's border? So therefore, they're probably going through America's border, even if there's no evidence, and if they're probably going through America's border, then they're probably going through America's border in order to attack America, and that means they're probably going to attack America, and where would they want to attack America? Well, it'd probably be, and then boom, he's built a bunch of things to be scared of when we have no grounding to even prove that this is a problem in the first place. Separate from saying, an open border is a problem, if you're saying that the border's open, or that, we have a horrible problem with immigration, that's totally separate from Hamas's entering the, we have no evidence whatsoever that that is occurring. But now, just due to his number one friend, Mr. Speculation, now it's something to be scared of when we don't even know if it's happening.
It's like on 9/11, our government clearly had prior knowledge. There was clearly a major stand down that went on, and the government got more power, more.
Why wouldn't Hezbollah, by the way, just target American soldiers in the region that they can attack in Iraq through their proxies? Or in Syria, in the American base in Syria, which they have been doing, like semi non-stop since the beginning of his hostilities on October 7th. Why wouldn't they just do that, which they've done in the past? I mean, that's what they did after the strike on Soleimani. That's what they did. I would think if the Hezbollah plan was to infiltrate America and attack it in mass terror campaigns, and that's what they were currently, conducting, or that's their grand plan, the time to pull a trigger on something like that would be like, I don't know, like after the Soleimani killing. If they're not going to pull the trigger on something like that after killing Soleimani, then how are they going to do it for,
Canova Kingamon got a tier 3 subscription. Yeah, Alex jokes only rambles hundreds of things. His predictions are just things that happen to be the very few things that happen be guessed right.
That's true. Thank you. Thank you for the tier 3 sub. I appreciate it. And the thing that's bothering me more about the Alex Jones stuff is he'll just kind of like ramble out article headlines, ramble out stuff, and not expand on it and give any details on it. And there's so much stuff being rambled out that it's hard to grab all of it, even as like somebody who can like pause it and talk about it. And so if you're talking to him live and he's just throwing out all this stuff, there's so much you just got to take his word on. There's so much you have to take his word on to have a back and forth exchange with him. And to not constantly interrupt and say, wait a second, is that true? Wait a second, is that true? And that's what all these people who seem to interview him give him. They just kind of take his word on it. And Tucker Carlson is doing that right now.
Control, and now they're not pointing the Homeland Security apparatus at the Russians like they did in the Cold War, or the Islamists after 9/11. Now they admit that their main focus is Christian conservatives and the bitter clingers and the people that live in rural America, that white people. I mean,
there was an FBI report that basically said that right-wing extremists within the United States are one of the largest domestic terror threats to the United States. And then they pointed to certain instances like the guy who drove into the crowd at Charlottesville, or the Buffalo shooting and other stuff like that as examples of it. That's what he's talking about. But he just turns it into Christian white guys. They're the terror threat. We got to go after the Christian white guys.
It says that in the report, are the main terror threat. And so this whole apparatus of the war on terror, it has now been turned inwardly against the people, not just here, but also in Europe, where if someone criticizes transgenderism in the UK, they come to their house and arrest them. If a journalist does that, they come to their house and arrest them.
That's true. J.K. Rowling is actually getting the electric chair next weekend. That was sentenced by Rishi Sunak personally.
So if somebody says, I think these surveillance cameras should start getting cut down, they come to their house there.
Look, I do think that the social media stuff in the UK is way too overbearing. I'm much closer to a free speech absolutist than most of my European compatriots. But also the idea that you just say something transphobic and then they come into your house, he is exaggerating slightly.
Arrest them for their free speech. And so this is a global movement by the mega corporations, by the BlackRocks and the State Streets and the Vanguards that control 80+% of world wealth to control our behavior. And Larry Fink of BlackRock has said that at the Davos Group repeatedly. We're going to use our control over all this finance and this global social credit score we're rolling out to control people's behavior. So that's really what this is. And then they use the threat of global warming. They use the threat of a virus. They use the threat of radical Islam to take our rights. But we really are the target.
Even if by the way, none of that seems implausible at this point. I mean, just you're a measure of how the world has changed. If you'd said this to me 15
great
years ago,
pushback.
Like, someone's a crackpot and it's not me. And now after COVID, nothing you said seems crazy at all. I mean, you may be right, you may be wrong, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, obviously.
Nothing he said seems crazy at all.
You just said, I would think that's pretty interesting. It's an interesting perspective. Why do you think you've committed no crime? You'd be in jail if you had. Why do you think they hate you so much?
Wow. I mean, maybe you could bring up some of the things he got wrong, which are plentiful and easily accessible on the internet, and say, do you think this has to contribute to it? Or do you think it makes sense to have Alex and Alex alone just kind of guide the narrative about why people aren't happy with him, while asking him no questions connected to the reasons why people are unhappy with him?
Because I do read their documents and I do read their books, and we were effectively getting a lot of people in the military and the intelligence agencies.
It was that Alex was such a good detective, even though he was able to, miss all of the evidence around things like Sandy Hook or all those other bad predictions that he made. It was that he is such a good detective. He was able to scare the deep state so much with all of the things he revealed about them that they just decided to pick on him individually. And then he started to get a resurgence after COVID, and they have done nothing about it. They haven't poisoned him. They haven't shot him. They haven't killed. He's like able to walk around and freely talk about their plans with no problem. I mean, as it goes.
Who were compartmentalized and who tuned into my show and saw my films and read my books and things. And they clicked with it and said, wow, I see all this going on around me. He's not lying about it. And then I would give them other pieces that I discovered or my other guests discovered. And so it was giving them an operational awareness outside of their compartmentalization. And so we had massive success in the military, in the police, and in the intelligence agencies, not just here, but around the world. And so our penetration into those areas to help people expand their awareness that we're inside the government, inside corporations, was triggering a lot of whistleblowers, was triggering a lot of people not going along with the program. And so really my sin was decompartmentalization of the population.
When you got deplatformed, and to this day, no one has ever been more aggressively censored, I don't think, than you. I've apologized to you this in person before. I was in Labrador on a fishing trip and missed the entire thing. I was literally out of cell range. I didn't know what happened, but I got back and I read about it. I felt like it was a major moment in the history of the American media. I don't think anybody defended you when that happened. Anybody. With any.
That's what you have to ask about when it comes to the Sandy Hook trial. Is that nobody came out and defended him. That's what, out of all of the revelations, out of the knowledgeable misreporting, out of the pictures he posted of kids he said that were not really dead, all of the stuff that went on in his network, your question that you want to pose to him is, why did nobody help you out when you're such a cool dude? You sound so basic and well-pilled, but no way to defend you. This is the confrontational free press that Tucker Carlson has wanted all this time, that he now engages in this type of journalism now that he is no longer constrained by those suits at Fox Corp. He can finally get on his knees and just get to town with Alex.
Kind of audience.
For me, when Tim Cook admitted that he met on the weekend in August of 2017 with the other big tech heads, and they made the decision to curate, like it's a museum, and take me off. It was hundreds of platforms. I mean, it wasn't just all the big ones. It was everything from LinkedIn to our bank accounts being taken away to everything ensuing that week and over the next month. And I knew that I was a test case, and I wasn't taken off those platforms for any demonstrable reason. It was the questioning the school shooting thing that came later. They went and kind of dredged that up from my past, just questioning it a few times, blew that up after I'd been deplatformed and said I was deplatformed for that. But if you check the record, I wasn't. And
they just all randomly deplatformed him on one day for no reason. Okay.
And so once they deplatformed me, it made the show in ways only get bigger, with people actually going to Infowars.com and finding me on local radio stations and things. So then they panicked and said, okay, let's look at his record and create more of a reason that he's being taken off. So they took things out of context from 5-6 years before, blew them up as a current thing out of context. And
can we read another? Do we have any more out of context facts we can list? I must have a good one. Here's a good one. August 10th, 2008, a national draft coming after the November 2008 USA elections. February 15th, 2010, Obama's staged assassination attempt will soon happen, and they will blame it on Islamists tied in with the Tea Party 9/11 truther. What's the context on that one? October 1st, 2020. I tell you that this could be the end of InfoWars here in the next few months. It could be the end of America. That's how dire this is. How many of these do we want to read?
Reported on what I'd said to create a straw man argument to then facilitate the reason.
What's so crazy is if you asked just a cross section of Americans who's responsible for the Sandy Hook massacre of kids at the school, no one remembers the name of the murderer.
Adam Lanza.
Okay, thank you. I didn't remember. Alex Jones. They effectively blamed you for a school shooting that you were not present at.
I have people come up to me in the parking lot. You can ask my security.
They didn't blame him for the school shooting. They blamed him for much of the suffering the parents had to go through due to the misinformation he spread about the school shooting, making it look like it didn't happen, or that it was fake, or that the kids were child actors that pretended to die through the auspices of their parents, like trying to profit off of them, or it was a horrific thing to say. And it created a terrible environment for those parents where they got called for years by these truth hunters in his community, the InfoWars community, trying to track down the truth about their totally not dead kids. And it was also not the only time this has happened. Him contributing to this has made other people, using many of the same formula, repeat that pattern of behavior. Whether it came to that whether it came to that church shooting that happened, where that Dylan Roof went into that church and shot up all those people. There are people who believe that was fake, and this happens every once in a while with school shootings. And he contributed a lot to that environment. So many people have been harassed over it. He did that. That was him, from spreading misinformation, knowingly spreading misinformation. Oh, that's not misinformation, is it? It's disinformation.
Security guy. He's been there when people walk up and go, "Why'd you kill those kids?" And then you go, "I didn't kill those kids." And they go, "Yeah, you did." And so that is what this has turned into. And this is bigger than me. I want people to understand something.
Complains about straw man before straw man.
The mullahs in Iran and the Ayatollah are congratulating Hamas that just killed around 1,000 or more innocent Israelis, many of them women, children, disabled people, in a vicious, evil sneak attack. They are on there. Hezbollah and Hamas, mainly Hamas, but it's Hezbollah funding it out of Iran, are literally posting videos of them cutting people's heads off and killing children and massacring innocent people. They're allowed to have their Hezbollah accounts and their Hamas accounts The Ayatollah is able to congratulate what these people have done, and I am still banned. And I'm not mad at Elon Musk. I understand I've been so demonized with the general public. He's barely able to, keep Twitter going right now. I really appreciate what he's done.
I will say that Twitter staff needs to hire more people, and they do need to have a little bit of a banning spree.
I admire him. I think he's done a lot of great work, and I see him moving in the right direction. So a lot of people attack Musk on Twitter. I trend all the time. Hey, if you're such an absolutist on free speech, bring back Alex Jones. I understand that if he did that, the ADL and others would really be able to probably shut down Twitter. So I understand that he needs to go through a process before he does that. So people get mad at Twitter for not.
Why the ADL? I'm not the world's expert on your career, but I know you. I've never heard you say a single anti-Semitic thing and an anti-Israel thing. Why would the ADL be against you? I don't think anyone's even called you an anti-Semite.
Well,
unless I'm missing something.
I mean, what goes on is the left forever called everybody a racist if you were just a conservative or pro-Second Amendment or pro-life or thought we ought to have a border. And that didn't work anymore to call people racist. And so the ADL gets all this big liberal donations. And so they go out and then police and take people's sponsors and target them just by the ADL calling up sponsors. Sponsors get scared and drop. And so that's what they've done to Elon Musk. They've been, they took over 50% of Twitter's North American and European advertising in just the last year and bragged about it by saying he gives harbor to white supremacists, which he doesn't. But at the same time, white supremacists are ridiculous. They're goofy. Most of them are usually working for foundations and are basically actors. We're not supposed to say that, but there's many cases of that actually being the case, and that they're just LARPing that they're white supremacists. But let those clowns speak. Whatever happened to the ACLU that used to support the KKK marching through a town or publishing their own newspaper? I don't support the KKK. I think they're a joke. But if you take their rights, you're taking everybody's. But they're not even taking the rights of those people to post because they create fear and they get the ADL more funding. But if they can target an Alex Jones or an Elon Musk or a Tucker Carlson, then they're going after the real populist leaders that are bringing America together. And so what the left wants is to divide us all according to race and to come out and say fundamentally with critical race theory that inherently being white is bad, and teaching 5-year-old white children they're inherently bad because they're white. That is wounding their brains and really creating.
Well, maybe those white kids shouldn't have been born white. Have they ever thought about that? Can we be done with this? We got 20 minutes in. We have a general idea of where this is going. Let's see. Is there anything else that we wanted to look at quick? Because now it's getting into stuff that we've already covered most of it I want to. Border Austin, New World Order. That sounds fun. That's fun. We can do a little bit of that. New World Order 212. 3212.
She's so obviously repulsive that it makes you feel bad about the country to see her.
I mean, that's it. We're at a beautiful ball. It's prom night. Everybody's dressed great. There's wonderful food, big, delicious punch bowl. And then they say, what can we do? Well, just have Brian Stelter go take a dump right in that.
Yeah.
And then he's there laughing at you.
Okay, so he has the Brian Stelter demon video up. He talks about it later. But I'd rather just play it. Here it is. Brian Stelter was used to be a CNN employee, I believe, a CNN host.
They're little men. They're pieces of crap. They think they're better than everybody.
Complaining about him.
It's a spirit of evil, and we must break them. I've tried to do joke photos like this to look disingenuous, and I can make any face I want to. I can't pull it off because the eyes, Chico. It's always in the eyes. Oh my gosh. Oh, hell on earth. He wants to run your life. He wants to control every aspect of your life because he knows he is a cowardly, degenerate sack of anti-human trash. I pledge before my Heavenly Father that I will resist them every way I can. These people are the literal demon spawn of the pit of hell. Look at him. And you know what? He is better than you if you keep letting him run your life. He runs your kids. He runs the schools. He runs the banks. This guy, this spirit, this smiling, leering devil that thinks you can't see what he is
He is your enemy. Period. All the narcissistic, devil-worshipping filth. I see you, enemy. I see you, enemy. 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 You are my enemy.
Enemy.
And I swear
you are my enemy.
God. Disingenuous, fake, false, broke back, twisted, a defiler, a betrayer, a betrayer, a devil,
a devil.
You will pay. Yeah, you think I don't see your face, scum? You don't think I don't see you, Stelter? I see you. You understand me? I know what you think of me and my family. I see you right back. You understand that?
Yeah.
You understand that, Stelter? Stelter. You will fall. You will not bring humanity down. God is going to destroy you. Get him off the screen. Oh, God, they're so evil. Just please, God, free us from them. They're drunk on our children's blood, for God's sake.
The stuff do got me tilted. Okay. I gotta say, this right here, this is where Alex shines, man. I wish we could have him like a congressional court jester. Him and George Santos should have a podcast.